All right, now it is time for our top 5 segment, and this week it's favorite boxing movies.
Yes.
That's right. We threw out the idea last week, and we thought it was such a great one. And I mean, there's so many different ones that I haven't seen personally, that I still want to see. Like specifically, the one that I really want to see more than any other one was that one with Miles Teller. I forget what it's called.
The
but
one
I
about
just feel
Manny,
like-
after the car
yeah.
accident and trying to make the
Yeah.
comeback. That dude, that one is hardcore good. It is
Yeah.
really, really good. Miles Teller impressed the shit out of me in that movie. That was really good.
Him, like so many different people are like the backbone of the entertainment industry, and they're the new ones, right? They're gonna
Yeah.
be the Leonardo DiCaprios and all of these different people who carry the industry for so long. So I'm really excited to see, what these different type of people do. But
Put that
number
one on
5
your
for
list,
me,
though. Sorry.
huh?
I said put that one on your list. It's well
No,
worth
I
the
need
watch.
to.
It's well an honorable mention. Just it's on my list.
Oh
Honorable
yeah, got to. But number 5 for me goes to The Survivor. This one came out in 2021 and wasn't really talked about, to be honest. It was kind of during pandemic time, so theaters were a little shut down, and it was exclusively on Max, formerly known as HBO Max.
Yes.
But it is about Harry Haft, who was a boxer who fought against his peers in a concentration camp. And it's wild. Ben Foster is in this thing, and he was freaking phenomenal, right? I mean, the way that he was able to turn into Harry Haft, I think was insane, because anytime you have anything to do with World War II and being Jewish and the aftermath and the PTSD, and you have to carry a lot of weight with you. But he likes these type of roles. He was also in that one movie with Will Smith, the slavery movie.
Yeah, yeah.
But he loves to be engulfed in these type of characters. But it was so cool because you bounced around a lot. You dealt a lot with PTSD and then went to that specific moment where he gained the PTSD, what inhabited that type of emotion. It's hard to watch sometimes, but like we always say, the best form of education is through entertainment, and that's definitely what this film did. So number 5 for me, The Survivor on Max. Be sure to check that one out.
Yes, that's a good one. My number 5 is has the distinction of being the very first film to make me cry. Very first one. It is The Champ with very, very young Ricky Schroeder, with John Voight, Faye Dunaway. The cast is phenomenal, but this is about an ex-boxing champion who went down the dark path, ended up being an alcoholic and gambling problem, and at a certain point his ex-wife comes back, says, "Hey, you got a kid." Oh shit. And so he tries to make amends. He tries to get back, and so he comes back and he starts fighting again. But time has taken its toll, the alcoholism and the rough life, and it's all taken its toll, and he ends up, spoiler alert, but he gets the fight and he dies at the end of it. He ends up dying. And the end scene is just it's Ricky Schroeder, he's in the locker room with his dad, and he can't process that his dad is dead, and he's on the table, and he's just and he's come on, champ, wake up, champ, I need you, and he's crying, and he's like begging his dad to wake up, not realizing that he's dead, and his trainer's like, come on son, he's gone, and he's like, wake up, champ, I need you, champ. And holy shit. If you can watch this film and that end scene and not cry, you're not human. I don't even know. Eventually Faye Dunaway comes in, the mom, and she's like, she consoles him, and he breaks down and realizes dad's not coming back. It's such a good movie about a man who goes down the dark path and tries to find redemption. So it's a boxing movie, and there's a lot of great boxing stuff in it, but it's more of a drama about redemption and trying to come back from a bad path. It's a brilliant movie. It is a very like it's before John Voight and Ricky Schroeder kind of went off on their wacko paths. This is still when they were still like, but I highly recommend it. My number 5, The Champ, and it was right after my dad died. Just a little bit after my dad died, which is why I think it gets to me. Which is why when the scene with "Come on, Champ, wake up, Champ," it gets to me. Still does. I can't watch it without crying. Just saying. Can't do it.
Makes sense. Makes sense. That one I haven't seen yet. So yeah, that one's definitely on the list.
It's a good one.
It was definitely on the list. One I just recently watched within the last 2 years, and it was honestly for a top 5 segment. I think it was top 5 Clint Eastwood films.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Million Dollar Baby with Hilary Swank, Morgan Freeman, Anthony Mackie, Mike Coulter, and everybody else in Hollywood, basically.
Yeah.
But I love this film because, it's all about, society telling you that you can't do something and then you prove everybody wrong. You kick that door down, you stick the middle finger in everybody's face and say, no, this is my life and I'm going to live it the way I want to. And I just felt like, it was such a beautiful thing to be able to overcome all the negativities and all the naysayers in this story, to be able to prevail, to become someone who Hilary Swank's character Maggie Fitzgerald is happy with, right? So it was a beautiful story. I always hate when they end the way that one ended, though. I mean, it's the same as that one Anne Hathaway movie
Yep.
that Emily loves called One Day, and they actually just turned that into a television show. Spoiler alert, she gets hit by a fucking bus. It's so stupid. I hate when movies end like that. Like, yeah. Oh, I'm gonna fall and break my neck.
Yes.
Like, Jesus Christ. It's so, ugh. But anyway, yes, my number 4, Million Dollar Baby, because you defy all the odds. You overcome all the naysayers, even people who are in your corner. You have to prove them wrong.
Yep.
So it's a beautiful film about that. If you ever need some re-encouragement, watch Million Dollar Baby. So,
Hell yes.
Number 4 for me, Million Dollar Baby.
So my number 4 has a lot of those same themes about society putting expectations on you and what you should be doing and how you should be living your life and where you should be going. And my number 4 is Creed. And it's all about Adonis trying to come out from the shadow of Apollo and live his own life and do his own thing. Much to the chagrin of his family. And he's trying to make a name for himself and not be the what his dad was, or trying to just, and oddly reaches out to the guy that helped his dad and kind of, so it's while it's the start of the Creed franchise, it's also the end of the Rocky franchise. Even though they're continuing this, they keep saying that this is the Rocky franchise, but technically this is the end of Rocky's story and the start of Creed's story. I thought it was brilliantly done. Yeah, it's a nice tribute to, where's Adrian? Where's Rocky Jr.? Where's Rocky at in life? What's going on with Rocky? He kind of helps Adonis. He trains him. He gets him on the right path. He sets him straight, kind of a thing or whatever. But it's a really good character study of, like I said, trying to come out of the shadow of somebody that's all you're known for, and that's where everybody expects you to be and how to be and who you are, and trying to overcome that. And I really think, obviously, any of the Rocky movies, there's always amazing fighting scenes, right? The choreograph and everything is just, but it's the story that always makes these films so good. And this is, as always, so well written. It's so well directed. And obviously, amazing performances. Michael B. Jordan and just it's amazing. It's a really good story, and if you haven't seen it, if you haven't seen any of the Creed franchise, I highly recommend that you do. And obviously, start with this one. And you might want to watch all the Rocky movies before you watch this one too, so that you have a context of the backstory that leads into this. But my number 4, Creed. It's just I love the continuation of the story.
It is good. It is good. I feel like, Michael B. Jordan and Ryan Coogler do an amazing job.
Oh, without doubt.
So, I know I need to catch up on the third one. I haven't watched that one yet. But number 3 for me, since we're talking about thirds, it goes to The Fighter. We talked about this one last week. Mark my Mark Wahlberg, Christian Bale, Amy Adams, Melissa Leo, and everybody else. Again, in Hollywood, Oscar winning film, The Fighter, about Mickey Ward and his rise to fame. Basically, the
Yes.
the rise and fall and the family dynamic of what was. But I just feel like what they were able to do in this film to make it so special, especially with the rewatch value. Like, it's let's see, how long is it? Because it's nothing. Yeah, it's an hour and 56 minutes. So you would normally feel like anything over 2 hours can get a little dicey. Like, are they telling the story too much? And with it technically being a biopic, you never really know how it's gonna go.
Yep.
But I think they did very good, very well, very exceptional with this film because it's just one of those where you're along for the journey in somebody's life that will prevail because he's very consistent about what he wants in life. No matter what the family dynamic is, no matter what the drama is, he knows he has to make himself happy and he has to do this for himself and not anyone else in his family. But it's a beautiful film. It's definitely worth the watch. The Fighter with Mark Wahlberg. Be sure to check that out.
Yes. My number three had to be on the list. It had to be. There's no way it couldn't be on the list. My number three is Rocky, the first Rocky. This is the epitome of the underdog story. Like a guy that's down and out that nobody believes in, but he believes in himself, and he earns the chance at the title, and it's again, it comes down to, it's basically, if you've watched this latest documentary about Sylvester Stallone, he goes into it. It's basically him at that time of his life. He's down and out. He's got no money. He's not sure if he's gonna even be around much long. And all of a sudden, he gets this movie, Lords of Flatbush. He meets Henry Winkler. Henry Winkler sees this script and helps him out, brings it to ABC at the time, and that's how it all kind of happened for it. How Rocky got found and made. But this is an amazing story of an underdog guy who gets a shot at the title, the heavyweight title, and it's an amazing story of an underdog who's a phenomenal writer. And not even, we don't know if he can act or not, but he's an amazing writer, and he has this script, and it's like, you're telling me what? I'm going up against all of these filmmakers, and I'm gonna make this movie, and it's gonna be so it's real life emulating movie, and it's just, I love that story aspect of it. And it's a love story with Adrian. It's the underdog story. It deals with racism. It deals with, there's so many different aspects of what this story deals with of real life. So escape from the boxing for a moment. By the way, it's one of the most brutal boxing fight scenes ever when they're just pummeling each other. It's absolutely brilliant. But it's the story. Again, a man on a path to prove himself to the world that he's worthy. I guess that's what it's really about, right? I'm worth something to somebody. I'm worthy of love. I'm worthy of what I think I deserve, kind of a thing. It's finding your self-worth and then proving it to the world. And that's what Rocky stands for. That's what Rocky is. And so my number three, man, Rocky. It's
so good.
Yeah, man.
I love that. Yeah, I remember watching it for the first time, and it's like, because I just watched Exorcist for the first time, and it's like one of those things where you just don't forget. Right?
No, yeah,
it's
no.
one of those that you never forget, never forget. Number two for me goes to Southpaw. That's right. I feel like Jake Gyllenhaal doesn't necessarily get enough credit for how good of an actor he is. I feel like people just kind of throw him to the wayside, kind of like I feel like Colin Farrell's in this same category. Heath Ledger before Joker was kind of in the same category.
Yeah.
Kind of like, as the pretty boys don't really act, whatever, blah blah blah. But they're actually phenomenal actors. Go back and watch The Covenant recently, a very epic war film, and like he blows it out of the park. But anyway, we're talking about Southpaw. I think this is a great redemption story because, when you get all the fame, you get all the glory, you feel like you're on top of the world, and then that one devastating instance happens to where you fall off your rocker, to where,
Yes.
you don't necessarily feel like you know where you're at anymore. In this specific film, his wife accidentally gets shot.
Yeah.
And then he just goes down a rabbit hole of, drugs, addiction, losing their daughter, and then just trying to find himself again as a person, as a dad, as a
Mm,
fighter, to earn his way back in life, not only to become a champion again, but to become a great dad again, because now he's a single dad who the mom basically took care of the child the whole time. So now he had to actually learn how to become a single parent and to become a father. And I think it's a great redemption story in the sense of, second chances are necessary. We're not perfect. We're human. We all fuck up. And to
yeah.
be able to have a second chance to redeem yourself is so important. And I think that's what's so beautiful about this film. And you have some amazing performances, of course, by Rachel McAdams, Jake Gyllenhaal, Forrest Whitaker, 50 Curtis Jackson, 50 Cent, and so many others. But yeah, it's a great film, and this is definitely one that I would remember going to go see in theaters multiple times
Yeah.
because it was so good. And I actually remember that Eminem was up for the role, but he thought he was too old, so he recommended Jake Gyllenhaal, and that's how Jake Gyllenhaal got the audition. So
Yep.
that's a really cool piece of information or history, I guess you could say. But yeah, number two for me, Southpaw.
That's a good one, man. I loved that movie, and I did not see it in the theaters. I caught it on cable like well after, and yeah, I loved it. I was like, how did I not go see this in the theaters?
Right.
My number two, uh, it's maybe one of the best boxing movies of all time, not just in our lists, but just in general, one of the greatest of all time. And how could it not be? It's one of the earliest collaborations between Marty Scorsese and Bobby De Niro. I'm talking about Raging Bull. And anytime you get De Niro and Scorsese together, it's a hit. It's going to be huge. This is the real life story of Jake LaMotta, though. And it's funny because this story is kind of like the preemptive story of the champ. Jake LaMotta was like a green fighter, but he got in the ring and he just obliterated people and became one of the greatest fighters of all time. But it took its toll on him. Outside of the ring, he was like a ticking time bomb. He was very volatile and by the end of his rise to fame, he's got nobody to share it with because he basically loses everybody. His family, his friends, the people closest to him, and he basically is alone. And so you see, unlike the champ who's trying to redeem himself after that journey, this is that journey. You see the rise and fall of Jake LaMotta in this film. So it's a beautiful character study, which you always get from Scorsese. It's always about character with Scorsese. And while it's a boxing film, and De Niro is fucking awesome in the ring as Jake LaMotta. I mean, you're used to seeing him as kind of like a gangster and a heavy, but he's fucking in shape and he's whooping ass. I mean, this is a really good film. This is 1980, so I was 10. So Bobby's a little bit older than me, but not much. But I love this fucking film. It's great. It's black and white, shot in black and white. It's fucking brilliant, which I love. But if you want a really good boxing film that's a true story and a great character study of how not to do it, this is the film, Raging Bull. Hence the title, Raging Bull. Really good in the ring, not so good in life outside the ring to be a raging bull. And that's again what this film is really all about, showing you the balancing of act of trying to be what you have to be in the ring, but not letting it be what you are outside of the ring. And how do you balance that? And unfortunately for Jake LaMotta, he couldn't. So I hope this one's on your list. You're a Scorsese fan. If you haven't seen this one, you gotta see this one.
I know. I feel like, yeah, it is on my list, and I haven't seen it yet. And it's one of those that I feel like I have to be fully immersed in. So I've been waiting for the
It's
opportunity to, and the moment, just to be all in,
it,
basically
yeah,
in the right headspace to where I'm like, all right, fully focused.
yeah.
So it's kind of hard to do with the wedding and stuff.
No, yeah,
Try
yeah.
to be fully focused on anything. But yeah, I've passed by it so many times recently, actually, like within the past month, and I'm like, but I want to give it so much time.
Well,
That's what it is. Kind of like with the Taxi Driver.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, like I just want to be engulfed in it. So yeah,
Because it's a
that's
Scorsese
why.
film. There's
You
so
have to
much
be.
that you have to be watching and paying
Yeah,
attention to because it's so layered and it's so deep. And there's so much. If you're not
yeah,
all in, you're missing 90% of what Scorsese's trying to tell you. So,
exactly.
you can watch it halfway and see a great boxing movie, but there's
Yeah.
so much more that you don't want to miss with a Scorsese film. So, yeah. But anybody out there, if you haven't seen it, my number 2, Raging Bull. Totally worth it.
Yes, for sure, for sure. Number one for me, I wouldn't say is actually a boxing movie, but it's MMA, so it's kind. It's just
It's like putting
Instead of four
Bloodsport on there
corners,
with Jean-Claude Van Damme. What the fuck? No, I'm kidding.
yeah. Instead of like four corners, there it's an octagon and it's fine. But I'm talking about Warrior, and this is honestly the first time I saw Tom Hardy in anything. And Tom Hardy and Joel Edgerton, dude. Oh my! First of all, they could really be brothers.
They could
like,
be.
for sure. And I mean, this story of, I mean, because it reminded me so much of me and my brother, where we were like close when we were younger, and then now we've drifted so far apart to where the only thing brings us back together is a certain amount of contentiousness, me, oi, whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where like, they're both basically fighting for the love of their dad, Nick Nolte, who is a raging alcoholic who never was really there for them. And it's kind of like similar situations to what I grew up in. My dad was not a raging alcoholic, but we also did fight for his attention all the time. And I just felt like the story hit really close for home, and it's such a good watch. I forget, it might have been Kayla Adams, who was a former guest on our show. She recently watched it and posted it on her Instagram story, and we had a little nice back and forth about it. But it's a beautiful, beautiful telling of just two brothers coming from two completely different places in life who just need a win, right? And we all come from a place where we just feel like we keep falling down and we just need that one win, when in all actuality the win is to have family and people around you. That's the actual win. But yeah, I mean, you can get so deep with this film,
can.
but be sure to check it out. I don't know what it's on right now. On IMDb Pro it says Mubi, Mubi. I didn't even know that was a thing. Apparently that is a Prime Video channel, and then I think it's on Netflix as well. So be sure to check out Warrior. It's really freaking good. But yeah, my number one, man. My number one.
Solid. My number 1 is I'm staying in the Rocky franchise, but this one for me is the best of them all. Rocky 4. First of all, it's got the single best training sequence in any fighting film ever, when they're showing you the stark differences of the Russian using the machines and shots and like high tech all, and then you got my man Rocky, who's high-tailing it with a tree in the fucking snow, going up mountains and pulling tractors and shit, working out in the barn. One of the greatest training sequences in a film I've ever seen. It's beautiful the way it's shot, everything. But this film, this is the start of the downfall of Rocky, where he's starting to get the effects of being hit way too many times. This is the start of where he's realizing that he's been manipulated and the money's gone and he's not aware of it yet. This is where it all starts to go, where it's full circle. When you see him again in Rocky 5, he's basically busted. This is the start of it. But this film also is one of those, it's the end of Apollo. It's the blood does not always mean family. Sometimes it's your family is not blood. Apollo is family. And so when Apollo dies, Rocky's got to defend him. Rocky's got to make that right. Rocky's got to kind of... So it's about the dynamic of their relationship and what it meant to him and who he is because of Apollo. And it's about overcoming enemies and making right, that we have more in common than we do separate, and that we can get along. And the backdrop is, if you guys don't know, this is set in the 80s, and the backdrop is Russia versus the USA during the Cold War, at the height of the Cold War. And they've got the premiere of Russia, and it's a great lookalike of Mikhail Gorbachev at that time, and he's even got he just doesn't have the little tattoo, but he looks just like him. You know who it's supposed to be, and of course Dolph Lundgren, playing the big giant Russian that's gonna crush him. But it's. I remember seeing it, and of course coming up in that era, I saw it in the theaters. And for me, when Rocky is in Russia and he's taking on and he's at Drago, and he starts to win over the Russians, and they start chanting Rocky, and the Russian people, in the military are looking like, what the fuck? We're gonna kill you all! Like, why are you chanting for this guy? But my theater stood up. And they were screaming, USA! USA! It was just a moment of pure patriotism in my theater where, this guy is representing, he's holding the flag up after he wins, and my whole theater was fucking going nuts with patriotism, pride of being an American. And yeah, it was that storyline of they overcame, that he won over the Russian people because of he was trying to send a message of, we're all the same. And if I can do this, you can do this, and we can all do this, and we can come together as one. And of course, as we know, Reagan with Gorbachev tear this wall down, and that did happen for a long time until a certain Putin. But but it did, and this movie I felt was going on at that time. It's just, I don't know. I don't know whether it's the boxing. I don't know whether it was the friendship angle, the family angle, whatever, or just the pure on patriotism of Russia versus the USA and all that. But it just stands out for me as to why it's my number one movie, because you get pumped up. I still get pumped up every time I watch it. It's like, yeah, I want to put the fucking flag on it. Yeah. It's one of those movies where you can't help but be fired up. And if you haven't seen it, watch it. This is one of the ones I was recommending, because if you're going to watch Creed, Drago and Apollo play a pretty big role in Creed, so you got to figure it out. Kind of want to know who they are. Just saying.
For sure. Well, what is your top 5 favorite boxing movies, or your favorite? We want to know. Be sure to comment below in the comment section, and of course, add us on Threads, Twitter, all the good places.